Hello and welcome back to another out-of-spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. On this channel, we often talk quite a bit about ceramic coatings, testing different ones, how to apply them, but how do you actually remove a ceramic coating? That's what today's video is all about. We're going to be talking not only about how to do it, but the reasons you may be wanting to remove a ceramic coating and everything in between. So welcome back. Let's jump into it. In today's video, we're really going to cover three main topics: why you would want to remove a ceramic coating, how you actually remove a ceramic coating, and how you know if you've actually gotten all of the ceramic coating or at least most of it off. We'll talk about that more later in the video. I'll be putting chapters in this video, so if you don't really care about why you'd remove a ceramic coating, want to skip to how you do, you can do that. Now, let's talk about why you would want to remove a ceramic coating. Now, there's quite a few different reasons out there. Something like this Audi RS7 Bronze Edition next to me here. Now, this car was purchased by a customer of mine about 8 or so months ago. He originally called me saying, hey, this is quite a special car. I want to do a paint correction, a polish, and a ceramic coating on it, and I want it to look absolutely amazing. When he went to pick up the car, the dealership said, hey, you know what? This is a really special rig. We want to throw a ceramic coating on it for you. And he said, wow, great. I can save, a couple $1,000s and not take it to a professional and have the car gone for a long time and have it done really from day one. Fast forward to 6+ months later, you see the car here. Now, the reason for this is a lot of the times dealerships installing ceramic coatings, for one, are not putting on really high-end ceramic coatings at all. A lot of times they're sealants, a lot of times they're just waxes. Sometimes you'll find the odd dealership actually installing a ceramic coating, which I believe this one to be. Now, in all honesty, when I washed and prepped this car for detail, the ceramic coating actually looked quite decent. What didn't look decent was the paint underneath. This car had not been prepped properly at all. We had bag rub on it from the car getting transported from the factory to the dealership. We had factory sanding marks on it. We had scratches all over it. And anytime this thing was out in the sun, it just looked dull. It looked hazy. So really, doing the prep before a ceramic coating is absolutely essential, hence why the car is here. Next of the reasons may be you want to vinyl wrap your car or PPF it. Now, what may happen is you go to purchase one of your dream used vehicles that's already depreciated on a dealership lot. You get the car home, you go to do a first wash on it, and you realize, oh, there's a ceramic coating on here. Maybe I didn't like the color. I want to change it to vinyl. Or maybe you want to protect it with paint protection film. You need to know how to remove that ceramic coating because vinyl and PPF do not stick well to ceramic coatings. Now again, one of the third reasons may just be the paint doesn't look how you want it to be. Very similar to this RS7. Go to purchase a used vehicle, it already has something on it, it needs a paint correction. You didn't know, the dealership didn't know it had a ceramic coating until you got home, give it its first bath, and you go, there's coating on here. How do I actually remove that? Again, we're going to go through everything here. Last of the reasons may be you're just weird and OCD like me. Now, I, of course, love testing out different ceramic coatings for you guys here on this YouTube channel, and I just like playing around, seeing what the best coatings are out there. Now, I think in the detailing industry, if you get kind of stuck in your ways and you're just like, I'm rigid to this one brand, I think you're losing out a lot. So I really like to just play around. Now with that, sometimes I'll leave a coating on for a year, maybe 2 years, and then I want to remove them, test something else. You may be that one DIY guy who actually enjoys polishing their car. And a lot of those guys, traditionally use wax or sealants, but if you want to kind of increase that, go to a ceramic coating, but you want to polish your car every 2-3 years. I think that's reasonable, but you need to know how to remove them. Now, let's talk about different ceramic coatings out there. Now there's, of course, all different tiers, all different lifespans, all different types of performance. Now, realistically, you see ceramic coatings last from a year to, in my opinion, at the most 5 years. I personally think 10+ year and lifetime ceramic coatings are kind of baloney, in all honesty. I really think after that 3 to 5 year span, somewhere in between there, it's really down to the use case of the car, how you maintain it, where it's driven, where it's not driven. Is it off-roaded? Is it a daily driver in the winter? If you have one of those cars that sits inside 24/7, never sees rain, never sees salt, never sees snow, coatings are going to last a lot longer. So I think it's important to understand with this video, this is not going to be how to remove exact ceramic coating. It's going to be, you got to play with it a little bit. Now, a lot of folks may think you can just remove a ceramic coating by doing something like a strip wash or something like a degreaser on it. Now, ceramic coatings are meant to be heavily chemical resistant. 9 times out of 10, most ceramic coatings really help between the range of pH level of 2 all the way up to 11. Anything outside of those, either acidic or alkaline, can start to degrade the coatings. So it's important to understand what your chemical resistance of your coating is, but understand that removing it is not going to come in the form of degreasers or even something like isopropyl alcohol here. Coatings will actually bead off isopropyl alcohol, which is pretty crazy. Next, we move into the mechanical abrasion stage when we are trying to physically abrade the ceramic coating off of the surface. Now, there's really 3 different levels of this. They're starting here with a light polish. Now, this, in all honesty, is going to take care of 99% of those entry-level consumer-grade ceramic coatings. Something over here like Geon Mohs Evo may be a perfect example. It's a 3-year ceramic coating. It's not a full professional grade coating. It's going to come off nice and easy, grabbing something like Koch Chemie Fine Cut over here, Sonak's Perfect Finish, or potentially even something like Adam's Brilliant Glaze. Now we'll talk about this a little bit later on. Next step, you really have your compounding, which basically means this is more aggressive than a polish. The perfect way to think about this product and line of compounding versus polish is, say you're digging a hole. Now you can really dig a hole with a normal shovel like this over here, a polish. You're just sitting there digging this big hole. It takes a lot of time, quite a bit of effort. Or you can grab something like a backhoe, which is compound over here. You can dig that hole very quickly. Again, i.e. removing the ceramic coating, removing scratches. But a lot of the times you may need to go back and refine. Hope this is all making sense. Now, lastly on this, you have a different form of abrading the surface in sanding. And yes, there are ceramic coatings out there that you do need to wet sand off. A lot of these can be for a few reasons. It can be that you have a high spot on the vehicle. Essentially, a high spot is when you go to apply a ceramic coating, you miss a spot after wiping it off. It sits there, it cures, and it's this very thick film buildup of ceramic coating that's very hard to get off. Now, a lot of the times, most compounds will remove those, but I've had cars here in the shop where I've had to take 2,500, 3,000 grit sandpaper and actually remove these ceramic coatings, whether they've been on there for a year, 2 years, or just recently installed. Again, it's very dependent on the ceramic coating that is actually installed on your vehicle. So, do I think wet sanding is the ideal way to remove ceramic coatings? No, but there are certain use cases where you do have to do that. Now, again, getting back into chemical makeup of ceramic coatings, all different types, they all install differently, all applied very differently. Something like Geon Mohs Evo over here, the consumer grade version of Geon Infinite Base Type 1, are all polyxylazine based ceramic coatings. Now they of course do have ceramic coating attributes in there, but these flash very different. These actually have little sweat beads that come up when the coating is actually flashed, i.e. ready to remove off the panel. Some ceramic coatings rainbow, and that tells you, hey, these are ready to come off. Some are somewhere in between that, where they'll rainbow and then switch to those flashing beads. Now, what I'll tell you, I've had this experience in the past with Geon Mohs Evo and Infinite Base Type 1. If you miss one of those spots, i.e. a high spot, it doesn't look like a big rainbow, but it looks like these little sweat bead droplets. Now, this is a time where if you miss one of those, have that high spot, you may have to actually go in and wet sand it because you have these little kind of crystallized, already cured bumps. Now, the whole purpose of ceramic coating a car is you should take it to a professional, and sometimes those professionals don't get the coating absolutely perfect. You may have high spots all over the cars. I see it all the time, and it's a pretty scary thing, but it does happen. It's a human installed thing, and we do have human error involved. I've absolutely left high spots on cars before. I wasn't paying attention, wasn't thorough enough for it. Stuff does happen, but there are ways to remove it. You want to quickly catch it so that that coating doesn't cure. You don't have to wet sand it. You don't have to get crazy with compounding. That's where a lot of the time something like Brilliant Glaze comes in. Lots of solvents in here, a little bit of abrasive can basically go right over that coating and remove that high spot. Now with high spots, again, I know I'm going on tangents here, but I think it's important to understand this. 9 times out of 10 with a ceramic coating, you install it, maybe you move down to this fender after you've done the hood, you come back, see it at a different angle, you go, oh crap, I've got a huge high spot in the middle of the hood. You can reapply the coating over it and likely that high spot will come out if it doesn't with just wiping it. Again, very dependent on the paint. So what we're going to do on this Audi RS7 back here is I'm going to physically show you different levels of how to remove a coating and then get into how do we know that we've actually removed the coating. So we're just going to first start off here with testing some isopropyl alcohol because I want you guys to see what it actually looks like on there. Then we'll move to polish, then we'll move to compound if needed. Now it's important to note with this, when removing a coating, you want to go the least aggressive possible to the most aggressive that you need to remove that coating. And we'll go through all the steps here and we'll also talk about yet again on how you know if you've actually removed it. So let's jump into the rear spoiler here on this RS7 and get to work. So this car has already gone through removing the coating in pretty much every area except for this rear deck lid and spoiler area. Now what I want to show you here is I have a simple bottle of deionized water and I want you to see, you can tell how nicely that beads up. You can tell the ceramic coating is absolutely there. So we'll kind of use that as our test bench as we go. Now, what I also want to show you is what happens if you use something like isopropyl alcohol here. Now, if I spray this onto here, maybe if I have this open, spray this on, and you can see it's actually beating up isopropyl alcohol. Now, again, a kind of light grade ceramic coating sealant wax may come off with this, but really pro level and even consumer grade ones are not going to come off. So I just want to quickly test here after we wipe that, still have full beading reaction there. So that really did absolutely nothing in all honesty. Now, the first step I want to try here is testing our Brilliant Glaze. Now again, this is a solvent based, I don't know if you call this a polish other than just calling it literally a glaze. I want to apply a little bit here to the corner and I just want to work this in by hand. I'm just curious to see if this is going to remove that coating at all. Now again, there are a little bit of abrasives in here, but mostly those solvents are doing it. Now what I've seen in the past with this is once a coating is actually fully cured, it's not really going to do anything. Now what I can see here is it actually did start to remove a little bit of the coating, but it didn't fully come off. You can see how the water behavior in this particular area right here where I just wiped is definitely a little bit different from the sides. So it did something, but this may be the case of using a spoon to dig a hole. So next, let's move into polish. We're going to do this center section and see how it compares to over here. Now, over here, I have my fine cut from Koch Chemie on a Rupes yellow pad. Again, I'm not doing this to fully remove this coating right here, just showing you examples. Let's put a decent amount of polish here and work in this kind of half center area. So that should be good there. Now, what I want to test is polishes always leave something behind. A lot of the times that is polishing oils. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe this off here, and then on one part of it, we are going to use isopropyl alcohol, and then the other part we're going to actually spray some water. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is really interesting noticing over here the paint's kind of gray, Whereas here, it's deepened this a lot. So for one, I can tell we're actually doing something here. Now this will be an interesting test to grab something like our prep spray. We're gonna spray it down here. We're gonna leave the top basically unprepped. And I'm gonna wipe this away. And I can already feel this has gotten a lot tackier than over here where it's kind of slick. I'm just gonna dry that part up and let's see how our water behavior is. So you can see definitive beads, but what you can also see over here is a perfect line. And down here, you can tell that we've removed quite a bit of it. You can definitely see in this particular area. I would say the water beading is definitely not as good as this, but in my impression, this needs a little bit more of that mechanical abrasion on it. From looking here, you can definitely tell this is still beading up. Now this doesn't mean that it is beading up because the coating's still there, it just means there's polishing oils on it. But you can definitely see down here, it doesn't look quite as good. As you can see, kind of the water sticks there compared to over here, it just beads up. Hopefully you guys can see that on camera, but it's quite a massive difference. So next we're going to move into our compounding stage. Now you may be asking, ultra cut, that's actually quite aggressive. Now what I've done on this car doing the paint correction is of course done test spots on here, figuring out what compound actually works, and I found that CarPro Ultra Cut was the way. This paint is actually kind of a hard paint, if you will, so I'm going to apply some of this compound here. Now the interesting thing, when you wipe this, I don't know if you can see this, it literally beads the compound. It's absolutely crazy. That's how aggressive ceramic coatings are. So this will really be a stage where I think you'll be able to tell a massive difference between basically using brilliant glaze, polish, and then a full strength compound over here. Sweet. So we've got that compounded there. And you can really see a difference. So this is the coated paint and then this is the compound. I really hope that comes through on camera. Let me bring you guys in a little bit closer and look at the difference here. So again, we just polished this side over here. Now you can't really see a huge difference until you get to here. Look how kind of milky and almost cloudy this is and how much more deep and black and clear this is. And again, remember, this is just after a compounding stage. This still needs to be refined afterwards, but that is a big difference there. So to me, this looks like we've removed quite a bit. But let me throw you guys on the tripod. Let's get this wiped down with our prep solution and or isopropyl alcohol, and let's see the water behavior. So again, with this, I want to make sure that we wipe this down with prep so that I'm seeing the naked paint here. Now, it's not going to tell us every single story if we just wipe this off, spray it with water. Okay, it'll help a little bit, but you're not going to see what the paint looks like underneath. Again, because the compounds, the polishes are leaving behind some sort of polishing oils. Now I'm just going to spray this down and I hope you can see, look at the difference there. So as you can tell right here, it's beating up. You can see exactly where we compounded here. Now you can see this edge up here and this edge I didn't get quite as good. Not going for perfection here. Again, I'm doing this throughout the entire car, but look at the difference right there. You can absolutely see that. I can sit here and wipe this down and it looks nothing like that until you get over here into the polish section. And then you can see, okay, we've stripped off more of it here. This is completely coated area and this should be completely naked now. So I'm going to dry this off here. Let that dry. It's a little humid here in the shop today. But what I want to grab is my water. And you can see how much that is actually sheeting there versus beading over here. So this is one of the telltale signs that you've fully removed a coating is when it starts sheeting. And you can see the water behavior here. It's completely fine that it's kind of beating up. This is also going to go through another polish stage because that's part of it. So we're going to remove even more of this, but I would say we got 90% of this coating off. Let me change the angle of this sprayer here. Yeah, you can see a big difference in between those. You can literally see exactly that line of where we coated that right there and remove that coating. Big difference. So hopefully you guys find this helpful here, because I think it's important to understand the different levels of this. The biggest thing, once again, that you need to make sure you're doing is testing a polish first. If a polish is going to remove it and your car doesn't need any sort of paint correction, go with the polish. But if it needs a little bit more aggression on here, maybe you have some heavier scratches, just go straight to compound. Now, I'm not going to say that CarPro Ultra Cut is going to work exactly for your car. You can play with different compounds. You can even go somewhere in between these two that it's not as aggressive as a compound and it's not as light or maybe in the middle as this polish is. So I think it's really important. Now again, just the biggest thing here to tell, just spray some water on this. Now you can use this with a garden hose, you can do whatever you need to do, but you can absolutely tell the coating is looking substantially better there. I'm going to tell you, in our polishing stage, this is going to get refined even better. So where would I go if I need to actually sand this? Well, that would be if I started with polish, it did okay, but it didn't remove all of it. I moved over here to a compound, I spray it down again, and it's still looking like this. Now we're going to have to sand it. Now, I'm not going to be sanding this car because it doesn't need it. If you want some information on how to sand a vehicle, go check out KXK Dynamics. Those guys, or Jason Kilmer, those dudes are absolutely incredible for sanding vehicles. But this to me shows we've absolutely removed the coating. Still going to get refined down anymore, so not a big issue there. So how do we know we've removed 100% of the ceramic coating? Well, in all honesty, it's not really possible. You would literally have to get a microscope on the paint to see if the coating was still there. Now, in my brain, what makes sense is once you're sitting here abrading it, let's just say like we were doing back there on the rear spoiler, I'm looking at the paint. Normally I would have a headlamp on, looking into the surface of the paint through the polish or through the compound. When I start to see that I'm removing light scratches, medium scratches, and deep heavy scratches, to me that says, okay, the coating's completely gone there. Now, I think where that we're not maybe removing 100% of it could come from areas like this, the edge of a hood, in between all of these little seams where some of those rolled edges may have ceramic coating on them still left over. But to me, it just makes sense that I'm removing clear coat, because that's what we're doing when we're compounding or even polishing, is just these microscopic little layers of paint are actually coming off, going into the pad, going everywhere. So I think it's important to really understand this concept. Now, there are some ceramic coatings that you guys need to be careful with removing. Now, one of the biggest ones I'm thinking about is on matte paint. I don't know of a physical way to actually remove those other than by chemical. Now, I'm thinking of my friend and colleague, of course, Kyle Connor, that owns a matte white Polestar 1. I coated that, I guess, a year ago now, and if there was something wrong with the coating, there's really no way to remove it. Even something like Brilliant Glaze that we use, that I typically use to remove some high spots here and there, will actually turn that surface a little bit more shiny. Matte paint's very tricky because you can't go in and polish or even compound, like I said, with what we were doing back there. It would completely ruin the finish. Now there's other areas, of course, like trim. Trim is one of those areas that you're just gonna have to let the coating, very similar to matte paint coatings, you're just gonna have to let it wear off, unfortunately, and you'll see it degrade over time, but there's no way of getting it 100% off. I mean, you can look at a matte paint, spray it with isopropyl alcohol, spray it with degreaser all you want, it's not gonna touch it. It's gonna be exactly the same as this. So to me, it's very important when you're getting into the ceramic coating game that one, you're comfortable making mistakes, or number two, you're a professional that's been doing it for years. I've made plenty of mistakes. I've left high spots. I've burned paint before. This is the reality of being a professional detailer. You're not always 100% perfect. We're always trying to chase that perfection. We may get really close, but sometimes we do make mistakes. So I think it's important to understand that. Now with this, in my impression, this is really the easiest way to do it. If you can get away with not sanding it, I would say do not sand your car, especially if you don't know how to do it. Now, a lot of the times what you're looking there when you're sanding a ceramic coating, you'll be working on this and then it'll turn into this milky haze. That to me says, okay, boom, we're in clear coat, because that shows you exactly what clear coat is. Now, on the flip side, compounding is just the liquid form of wet sanding. Now, there are some negatives to doing it with a random orbital or even something like a rotary. You're adding a lot of heat to it. So let's say you have a F40. F40s come into my mind all the time because they're notorious for having very thin paint. So you don't want to be removing a lot of paint on there. Now, with that, let's say a ceramic coating was installed. It needs to come off, whether it was a poor install. God, I hope people that have F40s are not taking them to shops that don't know how to install coatings, but hey, I've seen crazier things out there. And the coating needs to be removed and you're just sitting there hammering it and hammering it and hammering it, or having to wet sand it. You're working with such thin margins of error there that you can actually cause some severe problems, i.e. starting to repaint panels. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it also gave you guys some insight into more of this world of ceramic coatings. We're going to still be covering this on the channel frequently. I've got some cool video series coming up with my Kia EV6, where I'm basically going to coat each panel with a different coating, leave it on there until the lease is up, and just see how they do with monthly updates and going through everything and really seeing, you know, the differences between them. I think it'll be a cool series. So thanks so much for watching another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.